right, let's dive right in. Today, we are going to shrink down, and I mean way, way down, to explore the absolutely wild, complex world that's buzzing with life inside just one of your cells. So, let's kick things off with a pretty huge question. I want you to forget about skin and bones and all that for just a second. What are you, at your most basic, most fundamental level, really made of? Well, the answer is this. You're made of cells. As Professor Vishal Trivedi says, the cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Think about that. It's the smallest possible piece of you that can still be called alive. And that, right there, makes it the single most important building block for us to understand. I mean, if you really want to get how the incredible machine of a living thing works, you have to start right here with this one tiny essential piece. Just try to wrap your head around the scale of that for a moment. You're not one single thing. You are a community, a civilization of trillions of microscopic worlds, all working together in this, perfect harmony. That's what you are. So let's go visit one of those worlds right now. We're going to be exploring what's called a eukaryotic cell. And trust me, the best way to picture this isn't as some simple little blob. No. You need to think of it as a complex, bustling, and super organized city, your very own personal metropolis. Now, not all cells are these huge cities. Some, like the prokaryotic cells you'd find in bacteria, are kind of more like simple villages. They're efficient, but they're pretty basic. But the cells that make up you and me, those are the eukaryotic cells. The real metropolis. They are jam-packed with specialized districts, we call them organelles, and each one has a very specific, very important job to do. Okay, so before we tour the districts, let's talk about the city itself. The whole place is filled with this watery, gel-like stuff called the cytosol. You can think of it as the city's atmosphere, its air, its rivers. It's the medium that everything moves through. Food, messages, waste. It all gets exchanged right here. All right. Our first big stop on this tour takes us right to the heart of it all, the city's government, its command center. We're talking about the nucleus. So, if the cell is a city, then the nucleus is City Hall, the main library, and the central computer all rolled into one. It processes all the information and sends out every single order that's needed to run the entire show. And just like any top-secret headquarters, this place has serious security. It's surrounded by a double-layered wall called the nuclear envelope. The only way you're getting in or out is through thousands of heavily guarded gates called nuclear pores. And what are they protecting so fiercely? Oh, just the city's most valuable treasure, the master blueprints for literally everything, the DNA. And how busy is it? Get this. A typical nucleus has somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 of these gates. Every single one is a security checkpoint, meticulously controlling every molecule that tries to come in or go out. It's incredible. Now, the cell has this massive library of blueprints, but it doesn't need all of them at once, right? That'd be chaos. So it's got this genius filing system. The plans that it's using right now are kept all loose and easy to access. That's called euchromatin. All the other blueprints, for stuff it doesn't need at the moment, are packed up super tight and put into deep storage. We call that heterochromatin. It's just an amazingly efficient way to manage a ton of information. Okay, so a city needs good plans, for sure. But it also needs power, right? A lot of it. So for our next stop, we're leaving City Hall, and we're going to go visit the thousands of little power plants that keep this entire metropolis humming, the mitochondria. I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, probably in a science class somewhere. And you know what? There's a reason it stuck. It's the perfect description. The mitochondria are, literally, the powerhouses of the cell. But what does power really mean inside a cell? Well, it means generating this one special molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. You can think of ATP as the universal energy currency. Nothing, and I mean nothing, happens in the cell without spending some ATP. It's the electricity that keeps all the lights on. So how do they make it? The whole thing works like a tiny biological hydroelectric dam. It's amazing. First, fuel molecules show up. Then, a series of proteins uses that fuel to pump protons across a membrane, which builds up this incredible pressure. Then, all those protons come rushing back through this special little turbine called ATP synthase. And that flow physically spins the turbine, cranking out massive amounts of ATP. It is just a beautiful, elegant piece of molecular engineering. So, up to now, we've seen a pretty organized city, right? You've got the command center making decisions, you've got power plants providing energy. It all seems pretty straightforward. But that is not the whole story. Some of these city districts, they have some pretty deep secrets. Let's go back to those power plants for a minute. It turns out that generating all that ATP, that's just their day job. The mitochondria have some pretty shocking side hustles, and these other gigs are absolutely essential to the cell's entire existence. And the list of what they can do is just wild. Mitochondria can whip up molecules to kill invading germs, they hold the genetic key that lets us track our family lineage back through our mothers, and, this is the big one, they control the cell's self-destruct sequence, a process known as apoptosis. So just let that sink in for a second. The exact same little structure that gives the cell life is also the one that holds the power to decide when that cell needs to die. And there's one more crazy secret. They have their own DNA. It's completely separate from the main blueprints in the nucleus. They have their own instruction manual. And this brings us to our final mind-bending question. If these tiny power plants living inside all of our cells have their own DNA, if they reproduce on their own, and if they hold the power of life and death over their host, what does that tell you about their history? It suggests that billions of years ago, they were their own thing, their own organisms, and they entered into a partnership that ended up building the entire world of complex life as we know it. So what does that say about cooperation and the very story of how we all got here?